Hello, everyone. My name is Steve Parks, and I'm a senior partner with Page Executive based in Hong Kong. I'm delighted to have with me today Huilin Min for my final edition of Page Executive's Leading Women series. Huilin is currently the managing director of Kimberly-Clark for Hong Kong and Taiwan. She has an outstanding pedigree, having worked for some of the world's most prestigious FMCG brands across China, the US, and other parts of Asia. Huilin is also a graduate of Cornell's Johnson Graduate School of Management. She has a double degree in engineering and international trade from Shanghai University. And to top it all off, she's a wife and a mom.
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome. Let's get started. Huilin, what is one question you wish you would have asked yourself, perhaps prior to your career starting?
I think one question that I should have asked myself when I first started with my career is really, what is my passion? What ultimately inspires me? So like many younger generation kids, instead of following a vision, I kind of started off my career following a path that would be a textbook career ladder. But I think, should I have the opportunity to do it again, which is also advice that I would give some younger kids who are just fresh out of college, we should really ask ourselves what are passionate about. And only when we love what we do and we believe what we are doing that can make impact, we can do a great job long term.
Awesome. Are there any lessons or stories that you can share with us that would be unique to a female in the workspace?
Yeah, absolutely. 20 years ago, when I first started my career, it felt to me that it's a long held belief that women are typically not as good at negotiating in business as men. So, in today's environment where women are being championed in workplace in ways that are much louder and prouder than ever, no longer are we told to hide our emotions or taught how to be assertive at the negotiation table. But however, in my experience, though, I think being myself and not just, female or male, but relying on self traits that would likely be characterized as soft has really resulted in tremendous success. One example is in one of my previous roles with my previous company, I had to exit a distribution contract with the international distributor. So when I went to meet with the owner of the distributor, I quickly realized that this was not the typical business meeting that I'm used to. The distributor had brought bodyguards, and that was a bit intimidating at first, but I quickly realized that my ability to listen, to be empathetic, and removing ego from the conversation is really what is needed to soften the mood. So I think many people, especially female, are naturally good at using the softer side. So to that extent, I would encourage women or men to leverage your natural self in what you do and be authentic at everything you do.
Mentioned two key terms that we use a lot in our office here, and that really is authenticity as one. And I think also being empathetic is very critical, especially during today's state of play in the world. So the next question is, how do you set the tone at work?
Steve, I truly believe the best way to set the tone is really to walk the talk, be transparent, be open, be visible and available. So I talk to my organization very upfront about my leadership philosophy and beliefs that are really important to me. For example, I do believe in always being optimistic, even when business is challenging, external environment is going through turbulence. There's always a way, and we really need to look forward, not live the past or current moment. I also make sure that I make time to have one-on-ones with employees throughout the organization and all level of organization frequently to make sure that I understand what's on people's mind and what really drives individuals to contribute to the collective team and provide them another platform to speak up their concerns and questions. One of the biggest reasons why people fail is because they don't know what is expected of them. So I do believe setting up tones up front and having that transparency up front is important. So everyone is executing towards one goal throughout the organization. It's also important for leaders to realize when we're wrong and not be afraid to admit when we make incorrect decisions or when we're wrong. That shows authenticity, also helps set up the tone for transparent, open environment.
Excellent. Have you come across any significant barriers in your career?
Yeah, absolutely. We're all human beings, Steve, and we make mistakes and have doubts at times. I think the biggest barrier for me and maybe for many others is really believing it can't happen to yourself. Everyone should be aware of things that might prevent, delay, or stop growth. I think, my first role in sales, I was leading a 200 people field sales team in US that vast majority of them were more experienced than me. At first, I felt very uncomfortable being a younger Asian female in US as their manager with the power that I hold over others. The pressures of this responsibility can cause even good leaders to hold back from fully embracing their role. So I quickly realized that I must face this unease and learn to use the responsibility effectively. So only by doing that, I think one can earn respect from the team members and truly be able to lead a large team.
Great. Going back to the topic of empathy, why is it so important that today's leaders are aware of empathy and that we're even teaching these leaders how to execute on empathy within the workplace?
There's a saying that, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's absolutely true. So I think empathy really allows leaders to create an environment of open communication and trust, which leads to an engaging team. Empathy allows us to feel safe with our failures and make us feel that we're free to speak up with our ideas. It encourages the leaders to understand the root cause behind poor performance by not only listening, but also paying more attention to call it the non-verbal cues that are part of everyday's communication. Right now, we need to practice social, but not emotional distancing. Given ever-changing chaos, the external challenges, everyone's team deserves an empathetic leader who deeply understands what individual people are going through, and making the right managerial and executive decisions are challenging enough during good times, and it's even harder during a global pandemic. Hence, empathy and the ability to listen and really understand the root causes and what drives people during a tough situation is important.
Understood. I've always known you as a very confident individual. But what has happened in your life or your career that has made you the person you are today, that confident leader?
I think what really helped myself is actually being able to come to realization of my weaknesses. I do believe my own strength as well as knowing my weaknesses are important. One of the ways that I do to gain more confidence as a leader is to embrace my weakness. I am a quick learner and fast thinker, which can also at times become a weakness. If you think you need to know everything in your team, you're in trouble. So, for example, I'm not the expert in manufacturing or supply chain as I grew up in marketing and sales before becoming a general manager. So, instead of hiding the fact that I have certain knowledge gaps in these functional areas, I try to embrace them by pausing before I speak and by asking more questions before I jump into a conclusion.
Very good. We've talked about this as well, your passion and interest in mentoring. Why is that so important to you, either inside the workplace or outside of the workplace?
I think all of us have been touched one way or another by someone at some point of our career or life to get to where we are. I was lucky enough that I had not only one, but many great mentors along my career who helped me shape who I am today as an individual and then also as a leader. Being able to mentor others is very important to me because it does give me a chance to give back, to be trusted listener and ally to, and also encourage and enable others professionally and personal development. In addition, I also find mentoring others gives me the opportunity to self-reflect more, not only on what I have achieved, but also on how I got here, what contributes to the strengths or critical to my career, and what I should be doing now to ensure that I continue to learn and develop those attributes. Being a mentor, as a mother of two, is also important because it gives me a lot more insights to how I can do a better job of being a mom and being a role model to my kids as well.
Great. Given the current state of the market, given the pandemic. How do you keep energized? How do you keep passionate, driven, excited about work and life in general?
So what really makes me energized is really winning as a team, and not just winning with integrity energize me the most. One of the responsibilities of leadership is defining the long-term vision for the organization and also establishing short-term goals for the entire team as milestones. So while external and business environment have certain challenges coming up, celebrating these small wins along the way together with team and getting up every morning knowing there are new challenges that we can solve as a team, but the team with winning spirit is what really energized me the most.
Fantastic. What in your past has made you doubt yourself, and how do you deal with that self doubt?
I think in the business environment, especially given how fast the world has been changing, especially with the COVID situation, there's not really a perfect decision. There's no perfect data as well. So every business decision has its pros and cons. One of the things that makes me doubt at times is when there are important decisions to make. Whether I am making the best decision for the organization and business. So I think my job as a leader is to make sure as a team, we are making the best informed decisions while taking some calculated risk for the organization and business long term, but also move in a speedy way without having to spend too much time on analysis or obtaining perfect information or backward looking, over analyzing situation. That's even more important given today's ever-changing environment. I ask questions, I listen, I try to listen from different perspectives and different people throughout the organization. And I have team members, peers, and mentors to also bounce off ideas. So I think having that network of connection when you're in doubt is also extremely important.
Great. Are there any of your personality traits that get you into trouble from time to time?
I think everyone has some negative personal traits or perceived negatives. Um, for me, I think because I'm direct and transparent, I speak my mind. As a result, I'm not afraid to speak what's on my mind, which may make some people uncomfortable at times, especially in group settings. I've learned is really, throughout the years is, well, my intention is good, but there is a way to still be heard and speak up while bringing people on board, especially in certain Asia culture settings. So to get to a better balance, instead of speaking my opinions, I pause and try to ask more questions first to seek to understand. And oftentimes, actually, what I realize is, via asking questions and follow-up questions, my point of view or feedbacks are better delivered this way.
Great. I'm going to ask one final question. If you were to give advice to young female professionals, or you know what, female professionals in general, what advice would you give them?
Two advice. Number one is for everyone to think about what is the long-term balance that we're trying to drive. So, to me, it's important that I balance work and life, and I prioritize my kids. So, being able to identify that balance it has been very helpful for me. So, I don't think everyone's career has to be a linear progression. It's okay for people to take a pause or a backward move at a certain point of time because I do believe one's career is in general like this, and having that balance and being able to let go during certain periods to prioritize whether it's personal or some other professional interest has really helped me. The second advice that I would give is really figuring out a balanced support system on the personal side. I've been fortunate enough that we managed to do career with my husband. We've been able to figure out the moves together. And I feel personally have a very strong support system at home where even though we don't have other help, we know how to manage kids' schedule. So having that internal balance and making sure that you have an at home supporting system is extremely important as well.
What a great way to finish things off. I appreciate you being real. I appreciate you being genuine, and I really do appreciate your time. What a great way for me to finish off the Leading Women series. It's been a delight to be a part of this. I'm glad you were a part of this with me as well. And yeah, I hope women around the world are inspired by you.
Thank you, Stephen.